Hey, 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 what is up? How is everybody? Good morning, or evening, or whatever it is for you. Howdy, howdy. Well, I hope everybody is having a good 4th or 5th or whatever of July it is. A giant space station on Lego game for kids. I know, right? God, I just love making this giant Lego station. I mean, to be fair, Lego has got nothing on this. Lego's cool, but like, I don't know. Lego is inherently limited because it's physical. There's just nothing you can really do about that. But anyway, that aside, how is everybody? Let's make sure this shit worked. Hey, 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 French Eagle. I think I said that right. Among Us. Ah, yes. Lego requires some serious dosh to make. I know, right? That's the other problem. Is the cost of plastic gets exorbitantly high. So if you're gonna make anything out of Lego, you better have a lot of money. Sad but true. But other than that, 2, 3, right, cha. Wow, nice music. I know, I love this one. I discovered it the other day and I just fell in love with it immediately. There's a really nice amount of free stuff out there that has this really nice lilting tune to it and has a very sort of Celtic feel to it. I don't know. I was watching a 2B2T when the stream started. Okay, cool. 2, 3, so right here. Okay. Yeah, that works. You're building the Valley of Lee. Okay. You just now got the notification. Yeah, that's fine. It's only been a minute. You're fine. Small Lego pieces with like 40 pieces are $20. I know. It's outrageous. It really is. I've had Lego released a architectural best hits, if you will. Many years ago, they had the Eiffel Tower, the Space Needle in Seattle, the Guggenheim Museum. I got the Guggenheim and the Space Needle. I won't deny that part of the Guggenheim Museum, the actual IRL Guggenheim Museum, as well as the Lego counterpart, I won't deny that a certain section of my build here that I may or may not be looking at may or may not have been directly influenced by the Guggenheim Museum. So, I don't know, your mileage may vary on that. But yeah. Okay. So this turned out well. Because this was what I had to originally reroute. And I may still adjust this. In fact, I think I will. Let's move it 2 blocks. There we go. Okay. Well, it's not symmetrical. It doesn't matter. So, camera's acting strange, or is it the type of lag? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Camera's acting strange. In what fashion? Poopy butthole. There we go. I've not bothered with Legos since elementary school. I mean, most people haven't bothered with Minecraft since elementary school, so it's the same general idea. It's just a matter of, are you the type who likes to build things to express themselves? Yes, no. If not, fair enough. It's not everybody's cup of tea, I understand. But like, it's very much a matter of what are your preferences and how do you like to... What sort of creative endeavors do you engage in? And not a lot of people engage in really rigorous creative exercise. Like, some people just don't feel it that way. Ask me about the updated main map of Valkyria. Oh, Valk! Wait, what? The first Space Valk or actual Valkyria? Because actual Valkyria is, like, I've already given that out. That's just, go to my community tab, it's there. The world download for the original Valkyria. Music's in the description. And I've got a link to it. So don't worry. Cool. Nope. Face reveal. Nope. Not happening. There we go. One more side. Hope that senior year treats you well. Yeah, I know. Okay. This is another one I goofed up on. Paste. Oh, -90. Oh. There we go. Just gonna go ahead and get rid of these because it's gonna be a problem. Okay, hello. Will I do anything for the 50th build stream? No, I don't see a reason to. I will keep doing what I do. You'll get the pleasure of knowing that it's the 50th build stream in like a week or two. Actually, I think it's 2. It should be 50 in like 2 weeks or some shit. It didn't matter. Numbers are just that. Numbers. Don't worry about it. But that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to get this thing made. Make it amazing. This is my magnum opus, at least for now. I may or may not have another one in like 5 or 6 years. Let's just go down here. Right there. Goodbye. Reveal everything except for my face. Sure. Bad kid. Let's just be... What on earth is he talking about? Elbow reveal. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. Everybody does a face reveal. Like... It's kind of silly, you know? It's kind of passé. Like, who gives a shit? It's a very human thing to want to associate a face to something, so like, I understand. But that doesn't mean I have to play game. Or play ball, I mean. Play game. That doesn't mean I have to play that game or play along. Perfect. Just like I planned it. Wink, wink. 2, 3. 3, bam. 1, 2, 3, bam. 2, 3, bam. 1, 2, 3, bam. Okay, cool. Oh my god, let me out. Okay. Oh, finally, didn't oversleep. Okay, well, good. Welcome, Jay. Alright, enough people have filtered in for now, I believe. It is time. So, where did I leave off? Oh, yeah. So, since I'm about to get into story time, I'm not going to really be able to pay much attention to the chat. So just save your questions till the end. I will answer things, say things, you know, stuff of that nature when I get there. So don't worry. You know, I'm not trying to ignore you. Just be patient. Okay. So I left off at probably one of the more important parts of 2B2T history. Oh yeah, more staying creative. So much like the impact at the Chicxulub crater 65 million years ago, a totally unpredictable, completely out of left field, unpreparable event occurred. June 1st, 2016. A day that shall forever live in infamy. The beginning of the Russia War. And a total change to the way the server would forever run. Now, we were no stranger to being invaded. I even mentioned the IGN invasion, you know, a while ago. And things like that, though annoying, were not out of the realm of possibility. We'd also had other more minor invasions over the years. But 2016 was on a whole other level. Like, I can't even begin to capture the feeling of just being overwhelmed the way that we were. Azalea. How the hell do I spell that? There it is. And yeah, it was nuts. It was just absolutely fucking crazy. I mean, we're talking going from dying or near dying simply because of the tyranny to, like, I swear, it was the weirdest thing, okay? Night and day. So I leave, go to work that day, and everything is pretty well like it had been. And I come home, and there are so many people on the server. It's unreal. The weirdest part about it was that it was a sort of fulfilled irony. So most people are used to irony in, like, a poetic or in the context of a story, you know? Most people see irony as this thing that gets dropped on the head of a character, like an anvil in an old Looney Tunes cartoon, you know? It's just this, ha-ha, this is the punchline, bam, that sort of thing. But real-life irony is not only way more subtle, it's also way more debilitating. And so what do I mean? What kind of irony occurred with 2B2T, and specifically the beginning of the Russia War? Well, so for several years by that point, something interesting had occurred. It wasn't interesting in like, oh wow, oh my gosh, this is so, this is so groundbreaking. Like, Tristan's FTP server having the imp base world, the region files on there. Like, that's a smoking gun, that's an, oh wow, that's so interesting. But this sort of irony was infinitely more subtle. And it's really only something I realized personally to myself many years after the fact, after the Russia invasion had already long since ended. I don't know that this is going to be big enough, but we shall see. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and prepare. Probably isn't. So what do I mean? What am I getting at? What is this major, oh my god, so ironic moment? So for many years up to this point, for whatever strange reason, and I think I've told this story once before, but I'll tell it again just because it really punctuates the entire setting. We had the player cap creep up to the thousands. Specifically right before, literally days before the Russia war began. Do you know what the player cap was at? 9,999. Now, at the time, if you told it, like, hell, even well before, like years before, if you told me, even slightly, that could in any way be reached, I'd have laughed in your face. There is no way in hell that player cap could have ever been even halfway filled up. During the clone dupe, we all found out that even a small fraction of the total number of viable slots would just cripple the server. And to be fair, yeah, it would. Still does. I mean, that's just evidence why, further evidence why the current player cap is only like 200 and something, according to Housemaster. And so, for years, 2B2T was completely open to the public, with a player cap bordering on the thousands. It was nuts. Now again, this was a joke. Housemaster made it a joke. It was not to be taken seriously, because this end is 65, so this must be 66. Yeah. Anyway, so the player cap was a joke. Pure and simple. So boy, how wouldn't it be a complete shame? Oh shit, I see what I did wrong. So wouldn't it be a complete shame if a few thousand people overnight decided, boy, this server looks really interesting, I think I'll join. You can immediately begin to see how this caused so much chaos. And I'm talking like with the IGN invasion, which was really kind of the biggest invasion we'd had up to that point. With the IGN invasion, we didn't really have more than, I want to say more than 100 players. And that number quickly slacked off because people didn't want to play on 2B2T terribly long. They were enamored with it. They wanted to come and gawk. But in terms of actually living there, playing there, like, no. Nobody wanted anything to do with it. Some of those people stuck around, but, like, they all eventually fucked off. as they all so often do, they eventually just kind of gave up and left. Alright, whatever. But this was unlike that, and could never be anything quite like that ever again. This was the sort of thing that would just change the fabric of the server forever. It was just... life would never be the same. Could never be the same. And it was so sad, because, you know, it was the end of an era. But at the same time, it was not something you could ever really prepare against. Like, it was just... like the Chicxulub impact, which was the meteor impact that killed the dinosaurs. It just was. It was just something that was going to happen. And you could even argue it was destiny in some weird way. Let's use this. And so, that was our life. That was our life. God, was it painful. Because our entire culture, what we had expected up to that point, was eroded in the blink of an eye. You had a bunch of insolent children who knew nothing about what they were doing or why, joining because somebody had popularized the server, and that was that. And you just had to deal with it. Like, what could you do? What were you gonna do? You know? Like, sorry. You know, the Mongols never apologized for the lands that they invaded and pillaged. So realistically, why would the Russians? Why would anyone? No invading force ever really truly apologizes. And, yeah, that's just kind of the situation as it became. Whoops. Ooh, I don't want to have to use wood here. Ooh. I guess I'll go with the path block. So yeah, that was the very unfortunate nature of the Russia War. Now, the reason Russia found the place in the first place was... This is just outrageous. It really is. Alright, let me get this. So, for years, people like James Russell's and a few others, they wanted, for whatever stupid reason, they wanted people to join 2B2T. Always did. And, what's that old adage? Be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. Well, gosh golly goddamn, I think you got it, son. And so, about 2,000 to 3,000 people, and even now the numbers are very uncertain. I couldn't tell you exactly how many joined, but it was somewhere in that range. That many people joined over the span of like a week. And it crippled the server. I went from just expecting the place to slowly decline one day to the next day, or well, sorry, when I got home from work, to, oh my God, who are these kids? Who are these people? Where are they from? What is going on? What? Huh? Who? Where? Why? Huh? And it was just like there was no explanation. In the first, I don't know, 2 hours, there was just no explanation. I couldn't talk to anyone. Now, at this time, the player cap was still absurd. You know, it was still like 9,000 something people. And remember, that was a joke. For those of you who are not aware of this meme, this is a very old meme. It's over 9,000. I don't know how you could not know about that meme, but whatever. You know, some people might not know. Oh, damn it, I can't place that on fence. So yeah, it's over 9,000. So that was kind of the gag. And yeah, it was just funny reference, haha. But when that many people actually try to join, it's just its own farce, you know? Yeah, farce. That's the only good way I can describe it. It was hilarious. Hilariously awful. And like I said, you gotta deal with it. This is the situation. This is your life now. GG no re. And it was absurd. It was an absurdist, I don't know, absurdist humor. The universe making fun of us in a way, I guess. I don't know. It was the perfect end to the tyranny, though, because it really broke up their tyranny. Like, it didn't get rid of Nerds Inc. like I'd hoped it would, but it certainly got rid of their ambition. It still, to this day, has made it nigh impossible for them to get on the server without hours of planning and painstaking trial and error. Oh, why did I get rid of that? So yeah, it sucked to be them. But then it also sucked to be everybody else, too. So yeah, nobody got away from that one. Nobody got out of that one unscathed. Everybody had to pay in some fashion. It's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate time. There it is. Okay. Yeah, right here. And so we all basically ran around like chickens with our heads cut off. Nobody had any idea who was doing anything or why. We had the ability to coordinate over Skype, but like that didn't matter. It was enough to start the fourth incursion, but not right away. It was a confusing time. It really was. Like, I have no easy way to put it. It was frustrating and it was confusing because we didn't even know that there was a video for a good 4 or 5 hours. Oh wow. Hey, thank you, Mocha. Thank you, Super Jean Knot. What am I building right now? You'll see. I want to see if people can guess it. But anyway, thank you guys so much. I'm doing great. Hope everybody had a happy 4th of July as well. Those of you who celebrate it. But anyway, so our biggest foe was the confusion that the Russia War initially brought to us. It was so overwhelming, I guess is the right word for it. Even to this day, it was just mind-boggling trying to make sense of any of it. So naturally, we all began talking and trying to coordinate. A lot of us immediately went to spawn and started trying to kill the new people who were showing up. But rather quickly, you could tell it was very much a futile effort. You could not make any sense of what anyone was doing or why. It was Like, it was fun because you were shooting fish in a barrel, but at the same time you were shooting fish in a barrel, so it would ultimately kind of get a little boring. And, you know, I just kind of was like, okay, fuck this. This is for the birds. This isn't getting us anywhere. There's no end to the new fags. What do we do? And we wanted revenge. That's the thing. Because when something like that happens, you know, you wanna correct the power imbalance. You want to make things make sense. And in a terribly confusing situation, the fog of war just makes it impossible to really do that. And that's exactly what happened. We were in the fog of war. And I'm not gonna lie, Fit kind of did us all both a service and a disservice. He was charismatic enough to really kind of catch everybody's attention. He was more than happy to lend a hand and, you know, try to sort things out. But at the same time, it grew out of hand. It became a monster. The fourth incursion was working, but not really. Because realistically, the fourth incursion could never have worked. It was always doomed to fail simply because, I'm sorry, a handful of people cannot fight back an army of 12-year-olds that are just sort of there because someone like Rusher drew their attention to it, you know? And that's exactly what happened. Somebody like Rusher drew their attention to it. It just was what it was, you know? What were we gonna do about it? What could we do about it? Oh, there's my water bottle. And the answer was ultimately, we start a propaganda scheme and we try our best to divide and conquer. Because as it was, the Rushers were all way too... They were not organized, but they were... They still had the superiority of numbers, you know? They would have won simply through numbers, like an ant colony overtaking, you know, literally anything. The numbers game, like it was all a numbers game. And what can you do? Sometimes the numbers are just not in your favor. And when that happens, you gotta deal with it. Sometimes you just gotta deal with it. So our biggest threat was pretty much an insurmountable one. It's a little bit too narrow. So yeah, terrible time. Very unfortunate how it all went down. But we did do our best for what disorganizedness we had. Like, it was all very chaotic. Not a whole lot we could do about that. It was just... It was what it was, you know? I regret how some of the things in the Russia War were handled, but other things, you know, it just couldn't be avoided. And yeah, that was essentially my feelings on the Russia War. Now for the actual major events. So of course, Fit began rising to prominence by making funny YouTube videos. It was all very good, you know, lighthearted stuff. Interesting, funny, witty, like just well put together. It was still very scuffed and low tier in terms of like overall quality. But like, you know, Fit had this playful brashness to him that other people, especially other YouTubers, just didn't do. And it made him interesting. It made him worth following for a while. And yeah, it was its own style of crazy. So the very first major thing that happens is House freaks out because, you know, thousands and thousands of people have just suddenly shown up on his doorstep and they all want to play. What you gonna do? Well, first thing that had to happen was the server had to be put on a temp map because, let's face it, that was a containment procedure, and rightly so. Like, everything had to be contained. I don't know precisely what the game plan was from House's perspective, but I do believe that he had dollar signs in his eyes when he formulated a lot of these plans. He was at least fair to us. I kind of got to give him a fair shake in that he did give us priority queue for free for about a year and a half, somewhere in there. And that was nice of him. He didn't have to do that. Some people argue that he should never have given us that. Some people argue that he should have never taken it away. I don't really give a shit anymore, to be honest. I'm over it. But regardless, you know, it's a thing that happened. People are still somewhat divided on, you know, veteran queue, old fag queue, whatever you want to call it. It definitely helped the server. Precisely to what degree, your mileage may vary. Deep slate. No? Deep slate. Bricks. There we go. And yeah, it was definitely an interesting time. One of many, many, many interesting times that we would go on to have. Now, at the time all this was going on, it seemed like Armageddon. We're just coming off the heels of the tyranny ruining everybody. Nerds Inc. having unbridled control over the server. People are freaking out over that. And then an army of children just envelops the entire server. What the fuck do we do? And here comes Fit with this brilliant idea. Team Veteran. Now, initially, it was just a bunch of us old fags rallying together to not lose the server, kind of. We still kind of thought at this time we could win. I realize, in retrospect, just how absurd that idea actually is. We could not win the Russia War. The Russia War was not won. The Russia War was essentially... How do I put this? The Russia War was essentially a... Can we stick around? Can we outlast this thing? Can we survive as a culture? Because really it was a cultural extinction that we were facing. And the answer kind of was no, because people's hearts just were not in it after a time. I think a lot of people who were jazzed up for the Fourth Incursion and the Russia War and all that, they kind of just got worn out. And then a lot of infighting, which I swear to God, every single goddamn incursion has been marred by infighting. With the exception of the first incursion I wanted. Well, no, the first incursion... Yeah, Drew Bookman made everybody very miserable during the first incursion because infighting. So even then, infighting was a problem. Infighting has almost always been a feature of just about every incursion. And it's really sad because the infighting is what kills the fun. Because the third incursion, which was my favorite incursion, very quickly, inside a week, devolved into so-and-so is kill on sight. No, you're kill on sight. And it just became like, you dumb fucks can't work together to save your lives. And in all honesty, the fourth incursion very much demonstrated that. We could not work together to save our lives. We couldn't work together to save our culture, in a way. And that was just so sad. It really was. It was just so depressing to think about. And you know, that's life. Sometimes people can't keep their shit together long enough to do much of anything. Oh, hey, thank you, Gorgon. Oh, wow, okay. Oh, okay, so that's your alt. I understand. Alright, well, take care, man. Thank you. Once again, being the MVP. But, anyway, back to my rant. So, on the temp map itself, we all kind of, because everybody was made equal. That's the interesting thing about the temp map. Everybody was suddenly equal. For maybe a week and a half. Nobody had anything. And we were all kind of deathly afraid. Because we knew, like, the only thing keeping us in charge was the fact that we had items, we had god apples, we had, you know, armor, weapons, the works, stashes. We'd been around long enough. We knew who everybody was. We could pretty well tell friend from foe. But the rushers didn't have that kind of reassurance. But even then, that really didn't matter because it was human wave tactics. It really was. Our biggest threat was the fact that we didn't have good organization. And Fit tried to fill that role. He really did. And for a time it worked. But I can honestly say it ultimately didn't work because we couldn't keep the spirit of 2B2T as we'd known it up to that point. We really didn't get to keep it forever like we wanted to. We wanted to keep it. I mean, we really did. We wanted to keep it going as long as we could. We just couldn't. It's a very unfortunate time. And we did our best, and it was ultimately kind of just whatever. So that brings us to the end of the temp map as a whole. And the temp map itself, not a whole lot memorable happened on it. I have a video or two on it. I've since gotten rid of a lot of that stuff, so it doesn't really matter. But, you know, for the time, the temp map was really fun. I really did want to make some 2B2T content back then, but, like, I knew that it just wasn't in the cards for me. I didn't have a good enough laptop or anything of that nature. It was impossible to really watch all those old videos. You know, they were just kind of whatever. Oh wait, that's right, there's a slope here. Yeah. Okay, that's looking good. But yeah, that was the unfortunate thing. up here. Come over here. Actually, I think this. I'm building this all from memory, so I'm probably off in some parts, but it should work. I'm not going to say what it is until I'm done, but yeah, that's looking more or less what it should. This is just a scale model. It's not actually a building, by the way. So don't think of it as a building. But anyway, so the temp map, I want to say it lasted maybe 2 weeks at most. And 2B2T very, very quickly evacuated to better hardware. Well, the problem was, as it so often was the case, that even though we were still kind of around, the ultimate problem with Team Veteran was that people couldn't really keep their mouths shut. We would kind of try to do some things, but you had people who were sympathetic to the rushers for whatever reason. I don't know why. It boggles the mind. It really does. Because, like, the rushers were the smelly, unwashed masses. They really were. They were ignorant kids. They weren't the type of people you could really make friends with at the time. Just because it was, I don't know, it was seen as gauche to try and do so. Nowadays, I wouldn't give a shit. Back then, we were all very kind of elitist. Because, you know, 2B2T was our thing. It really was. It wasn't your building, or your server. It was our server. It was our private clubhouse, sorta, kinda. But not really. We wanted it to be, but it really couldn't be. That's just kind of how public servers are, you know? They're not permanently yours, despite whatever you might think. They can't stay yours. All good things come to an end, you know? It just is what it is. But the idea of Team Veteran, I won't say it was a bad one. Because the ultimate goal was to keep the newer players distracted. And to keep players distracted with an idea. You too can join Team Veteran. All you have to do is have the shield and blah 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 blah. It worked. You know, people were suddenly for Team Veteran who were not in any way qualified to be, you know, on 2B2T. They didn't know what they were doing. But they were all too eager to join, and yeah, Fit very much gave them a cause, if you will. Was what it was, you know. Our next big problem, however, was, again, the infighting. The infighting, once it started, it never stops. It's an impossible train to derail. Shit. Infighting is the death knell of any organized group. The moment the infighting starts is the moment you're shit out of luck. And yeah, it all started with Offtopia. But more specifically, it started with the Crystal Islands, which was a base Offtopia had for years. It was just kind of terrible, really. Fit was accused of leaking the Crystal Islands for basically views. Because Fit was really getting popular, you know, on YouTube. I don't know what the story is behind the Crystal Islands specifically, and I really don't give a shit. Because A, it wasn't my base. I never went there. I never had any direct contact I do feel like Fit got a bad rap in the early days of, you know, because a lot of people were very, very quick to start accusing him of farming views, which I'll kind of admit is something he does nowadays. But back then, I don't think that was the point. The point was not to farm views. The point was to get something of a, what's a good word for it? Something of a good sort of propaganda arm, I guess. And it never really got off the ground. It couldn't. And so we ended up basically just floundering. We organized a few major raids on some, you know, people who were extremely large targets. Like we tried to get Rusher himself wherever we could. Tried to get that corrupted unicorn idiot. A few, I think Panda Sauce or Panda, no, not Panda Sauce, Panda something. Who cares? It just never really went the direction I'd hoped it would. There we go. And so the third or fourth incursion really just kind of broke up, all on its own. That was the end of that. Didn't even last a month. The previous incursion, the third incursion, was a more structured, scheduled incursion, and even though it was still somewhat of a failure, it had a hell of a lot more organization and planning and thought put into it, despite all the crap that happened. And I mean, the fourth incursion was only like a year earlier. And yeah, it was just, it's amazing how much time, or how much a year, how much can change in just that short amount of time. And we kind of scattered, and people became more reclusive. We were all much more hermetic. We didn't want to really come into contact with the unwashed masses of rushers. And yeah, that just was kind of a problem. And of course, I was no different. I also retreated. I retreated back to this mushroom island that I'd been building right after the nerds raided Space Valk 2. And so I just kept building there. And one of the interesting things about this whole mess. Oh wait, shit, this wraps around. But yeah, one of the interesting things about this whole mess, the Rusher War, is that it brought a bunch of people out of the woodwork who had previously never really played or hadn't played all that much. And specifically, it brought back, and I really, really hate to say this story, but it is part of 2B2T history, and it's one, a lot of you kind of probably already know this story, but, you know, I knew I'd have to touch on it, so here we go. One of the people that brought back was Snacky Morph. Now, Snacky had kind of stopped playing because of some IRL concerns. Won't really go into what. Snacky was not at Space Valk 2. He kind of quit after Space Valk 1. Well, he heard about the Rusher thing and came back. And initially, I was really happy to see him back again. Because, you know, old friends showing back up, that's always a good thing, right? So Snacky tells me, "Oh yeah, you know, I'm gonna check out spawn, maybe kill some new fags, and oh yeah, there's this person, this girl, I want to base with." And I'm like, "A girl? All right, whatever. You do you." That's a little weird, but all right. I can't really I'm not gonna say anything. I don't really give a shit. He wants to live with some girl? Okay. And by that, I mean he's basing with her on 2B22. And again, I'm like, alright, that's a little weird, but whatever. Now, already, I should have known something was up. Not in the way that Snacky was acting, just in the fact that this was very out of left field. I didn't know who this person was, never heard of them. I figured they were a new fag. Turns out they were. Oh, shit. There we go. But, you know, hindsight is 20/20. This person was not a girl. You all probably know who this person was, or have at least in some way heard of them. This person was Cancer Chan. And boy, were they cancer. We were about to have an unfortunate, very nasty, I guess, bros before hoes kind of incident. But obviously there were no hoes involved. This was a catfishing sort of thing. It was just... It sickens me to think about it, but like... And it's not Snacky. Like, I don't really blame Snacky for this. Snacky was taken advantage of. It's really Cancer Chan that most disturbed me. So this guy... he was maybe... He was maybe 16, 17 years old, I want to say. And he was posing as a girl. And he just sort of... I don't know how Snacky and him met, to be honest. I don't think he ever told me. But at this time, Snacky was already a part of Aureus. Well, Aureus had been around for about a year at this point. I had no idea about this base. It's a miracle that it wasn't destroyed by the nerds. Or compromised in some way. But, you know, it just... As luck would have it, it didn't. And there was, at this point, a somewhat famous My Little Pony. Because, goddamn, that fucking show has just... As though it is not enough of a cancer on society. This My Little Pony map was created because some people just... Whatever. I'm not going to critique My Little Pony. It's just... Whatever. So, this map is made. It's been made several months earlier. And by this time, it's beginning to circulate. Making the rounds and stuff. And Cancer Chan. So, one interesting thing to note is that around this time, Snacky brings... Because I meet up with Snacky. And I'm like, hey dude, I've got this mushroom island. We're trying to regroup. This is where we are living. You know, why don't you... Because I initially thought it was just Snacky. Why don't you come and... base with me again. I'm back in the overworld. You know, because Snacky was all like, I can't live in the end, man. I don't know how you do it, but I can't live in the end. Like, it just doesn't work for me. And I'm like, okay, fair enough, you know. And now that Space Valk 2 is gone, maybe you can come back and we can base together and we, you know, like the good old days. And so Snacky does come to my mushroom island. But he brings Cancer Chan with him. Now this part's baffling to me. Snacky himself even stated that he didn't know what he was thinking. He didn't think about it hard enough. He just kind of did it. And Cancer Chan. Now, Cancer Chan did not personally mention anything to anybody. But the fact that this person that I didn't know, that I did not invite, and I could not trust, and later on would be vindicated in not trusting, just suddenly was randomly brought to my island out of nowhere by a friend that I trusted, that hurt. And I was like, dude, what the hell? Why did you bring this guy, this person, whoever they were? I believed that Cancer Chan was a girl at the time, but I had no way to know. I was just like, I was skeptical, you know? Reasonably skeptical. Actually, I think I'll use Smooth Stone. And I was upset. And mind you, Stupid Walrus had been living with me. And, you know, it was a bit of a kerfuffle. It really was. And so I was like, Walrus, we're moving. And I scouted out a nearby mushroom island. And thankfully it was only about 2K away or something. It was pretty close. And so we moved everything there. And initially, everything was okay. Seemingly. But nothing was okay. For the tides of war would soon shift, and they would shift in a way that none of us were prepared for. Hold on, I have to let a cat out. He's bitching at me. So, this advantage that we had enjoyed up till this point was soon to evaporate completely. For you see, we had gear. We got off the temp map, and so it was business as usual after that. And for the first time in 4 years, something simultaneously amazing and horrifying happened. Since January, New Year's of 2014, the first major dupe in a long time, like a drought that had suddenly broken. Now, this was the July 2016 minecart dupe. And in retrospect, it was awful. It was a terrible dupe. It was not efficient. It was very sloppy. But it leaked like crazy, and it changed the tides of the Russia War. Because now, all these people who'd previously been basically defenseless were suddenly able to be armed to the teeth at a moment's notice. Tie that off with the fact that bed bombing, and now the new crystal PvP meta. Suddenly everything changed for the worse. Because everybody could compete on even footing. There was no team veteran anymore, because it didn't matter what team you were on. What was initially a Ponzi scheme to break up the forces of the Russia War, it completely went, it turned a complete 180. I think I'm gonna do it this way. And people who had previously never been a threat were now suddenly a threat. And they were a threat in a big way. because now they could make stashes. Now they could organize. Now they had an army. Suddenly you had to take rushers seriously. Nobody had to take them seriously up till this point. Nobody cared. If you were a rusher, you were dirt. So to suddenly be someone after being no one, this thing's not going to cooperate, is it? Probably not. Shit. When in doubt, debug it out. There we go. Yeah, that works. Anyway, so now we had a dilemma. What do we do about the rushers? How do we deal with this sudden military force that, I mean, we had to take them seriously. What could you do? Well, the answer was nothing. Because our organizational skills were god-awful. And it was only near the end of what I consider the real Rusher War that the Crystal PvP meta inadvertently got invented. But it was quick to catch on. And so what was initially something of an advantage, because, you know, a lot of people were caught off guard by crystals, that very quickly evaporated. People got used to being crystalled to death very quickly. They understood just how dangerous crystals could be. And in no time, people were adapting. The meta formed so fast. Actually, no, iron bars. I think there were iron bars here. But yeah, it was outrageous how quick and how fast people adapted. Next thing I knew, going to spawn was a death sentence. You couldn't. You really just could, or actually I think this had no, yeah. You couldn't go to spawn anymore and just hang out or PvP or whatever, because you would get crystalled. You would get bed bombed. Something would happen and you would just you'd get wrecked. It was difficult to organize now. And that's pretty well, other than a few handful of times, that's pretty well the way it would always be going forward. Oh wait, no, this comes down one. But yeah, it was terrible. It was just absolutely terrible. Maybe make this a chain. The ability for people to just do anything was severely hampered. It was a very unfortunate time. So the next major happening is our lovely Aureus. So we're moving to this new Mushroom Island, me and Super Walrus. And we get invited to Aureus because, for all intents and purposes, we're essentially still homeless. And initially I'm like, no, I want to try out this Mushroom Island. It's fine. And Snacky's still, you know, apologetic. He didn't mean to really compromise my base in the way that he did, but, you know, it happened. And this is around the time Cancer Chan starts to threaten. I don't really know why. I do remember that when Snacky got to my base, to that Mushroom Island, I'd been collecting map art. Now, I'm not a fan of My Little Pony or anything like that. But I did enjoy the idea of map arts being made of multiple different media. And, you know, seeing the minds behind whoever was creating what. Because I was a big map art aficionado. I would become an even bigger map art aficionado in the coming months. This should be big enough, yeah. Well, as unfortunate as it seems, this one map art is kind of what destroyed Aureus. So I kind of have to take some responsibility for the Aureus thing, because the map in question, the My Little Pony, it's the picture of Rainbow Dash, I think. Cancer Chan saw that map at my Mushroom Island, the first one. And Snacky, trying to be chivalrous, I guess, or be, you know, I don't know, cool, something. Cancer Chan asked about that map. And Snacky, of course, being a member of Aureus, knew where it was. And so he's all like, yeah, baby, I'll take you to it. Now, Snacky didn't necessarily give Cancer Chan the coords. But regardless, you know, that's kind of sort of... You did just promise to bring this completely unknown random person to a base that, like, only Snacky'd been invited to it. Cancer Chan had no right to go there. Nobody wanted him there. Okay. I'm gonna try this versus this. May not make a difference. Okay. I'm gonna make a skybox. Yeah, this will work. So, unfortunately, Snacky and Cancer Chan head off to go that way, but thankfully, it never ends up being that Snacky did not take Cancer Chan to Aureus. That did not happen. A lot of people seem to think it did. That's not what happened. Snacky gets talked out of doing this, thankfully. But not before this very unfortunate incident where basically people start to accuse him of doing this. But of course, Snacky has not yet. Damn it, Mitwool. There we go. So that's a little off the corner. Ha! There we go. Let's go over to the opposite edge. Perfect. That'll work. Uh-oh. Oh, phew. Thought I got lost for a split second there. Okay, so this must be opposite side, yeah. There we are. Phew. So yeah, Cancer Chan kind of began threatening at this time. He really wanted to go to Aureus. I do not really know why, but he wanted to, so it's whatever. Nothing we can do about it. That looks exactly the same. Let's see if the light level makes a difference. No? Doesn't appear to. Oh well. So, I've moved at this point, and Snacky, you know, he's regretful. He didn't mean to do what he did. He didn't mean to inadvertently expose my base or anything like that. Honestly, I can't tell the difference. Oh well. Fuck it. We'll just keep them as sea lanterns. And the next major unfortunate incident after this new dupe is discovered. Of course, I immediately start trying to take advantage of this dupe. Because, you know, it's a dupe and we've not had one. I'm out of items. I don't have anything. I need building blocks. I need tools. I need the works, you know. And one of the first things that happens, I swear, like fucking clockwork, this young kid happens by complete accident to find my island. Because the Crystal Islands had already been leaked at this point. He ends up finding my island by accident because the Crystal Islands and my island just so happen to share an X coordinate. Now, I didn't know this. I didn't care. But on his way to the Crystal Islands, this dumbass little YouTuber tried to raid my stash, and he just loses his shit. He's never seen so many goodies in one place. Just can't. Can't imagine it. And he calls, of all people, the Vortex Coalition. Now, I'd had some contact with the Vortex Coalition up to this point. God damn, this is going to take forever. There's got to be an easy way to generate these item frames procedurally. Well, this is gonna be fun. Yeah, Jediah. Yeah, that was him. You got it. The Jediah. And unfortunately for me, the Jediah would ruin my entire stash, including the enchanted glass that I'd had from Imp Space. What he did with it, I don't know. It's completely patched now, so there's like no point. I think he also got some player heads. No, wait, no, those were at Aureus. He didn't have the chance to get those. That's right. So, as luck would have it, I lose the island. The Vortex Coalition shows up to help Jediah, but I do manage to kill Jediah in retribution. And the entire stash, the entire thing is just completely ruined. Both islands, the one Snacky visited and the one that I moved to. Can I? Yeah, okay, good. I can do it this way. Oh, so it prioritizes. Okay. Interesting. But it's another total loss. Second total loss that year. For a year as eventful as 2016, to have two super complete losses, just... It really makes you wonder how it was such a good year overall, because 2016 actually was a good year. But God, it did not start that way. Oh my God, it started so crappily. Crappiest year, beginning of a year, I think ever. It was just abysmal. But it was about to get so much better. So I return to the 2B2T newspaper at this time because I had nowhere else to go. I lived near the 2B2T newspaper. Shit. But I didn't really have anywhere that I could call home. And it wasn't... It was a very hostile place, and as we would soon find out, living near spawn was a death sentence now, because you'd be found by a rusher. How the Sea Spire managed to survive that entire era without being found, I'll never know. But it did. But I knew I couldn't really live there because it was, you know, it was close to spawn. It was a depressing time. So this puts us at August of 2016. And my life was about to change for the much better. So the first interesting thing that happened is Offtopia and them start building a base. This base was one of the coolest fucking bases I'd ever seen. And would go on to influence me, and I've still got ideas. This base was the Drain. And I used to have a video on my channel flying through the Nether. Well, this was me flying to the Drain. There was a secret flying exploit that was still viable for whatever reason, and it used impact, and we could fly pretty much anywhere. And it was extremely useful. A few people knew it, but for the most part it was, you know, it was private. Wouldn't stay private. But, you know, it is what it is. The Drain was amazing. Definitely one of the coolest bases I'd ever been at. Wonderful concept. Had a bunch of really talented builders living there. This really cool sort of, overarching design to it. It was sort of futuristic, sort of modern. And I was recruited by Offtopia because he had seen Fit's video on Space Valk 1. By this time, people kind of knew me as the dude who made Space Valk. And Offtopia wanted me to build a thing like Space Valkyria at the Drain. He wanted me to build it in the dead center of the Drain and make it, you know, just make it cool, basically. And I was like, yeah, I can do. If you guys got the items, I need a base. Like, sure. I will happily do that. Yeah, sign me up. And I get there, and I'm told, well, no, we don't actually want to make, you know, something in the middle. We want the middle to be a park. And I'm like, ugh, fine, whatever. I wasn't about to argue because I knew that, you know, I didn't have a base. I didn't want to get kicked out. I didn't want to cause drama. Like, just, we'll get there. We'll have our chance. A chance that would not yet come. But it's a chance that I've kept in the back of my head for a long time. I've still got this idea in my head. And I'm kind of giving away secrets that I don't really want to give away. Potential projects for the future. But let's just say that, you know, the dreaming stage is probably the most important stage, because it gives you the chance to let your imagination run wild in a way that you just don't get the chance to otherwise. And yeah, that was the drain. Lasted for maybe 2 months. And Fit got wind of where it was, did a video on it. But in all honesty, the drain was doomed because we showed bedrock. We didn't yet know that showing bedrock was a death sentence. We didn't know how dangerous that was. I believe Chrome Crusher had just showed up to Fit Lantis, because Fit was doing his own thing at this time. And yeah, that was very unfortunate. We were all about to find out how unfortunate that really was. So we all scattered. Another dude named Burnsy, whom you may remember from traveling to the world border. Well, this was about the time people were traveling to the world border legitimately for the very first time. The ex-highway crew were just getting finished, or maybe they were halfway through, I forget. But they were doing their thing, and Burnsy would later go on to document and join them. Point Dory was very soon to be a thing. But shortly during the drain, I met someone really cool. One of my best friends. Still in contact with him today. He was a total random person. And I don't know how, but we just hit it off. We just started talking out of nowhere. The one, the only, Alpha Computer. Alpha Computer and I just randomly met August, July, somewhere in there, of 2016. He had been building a base. He had joined 2B2T before the Russia War, but quickly lost interest, and then suddenly saw the video that Russia made, because that, I swear to God, that video got recommended to everybody under the sun, and very quickly was like, oh yeah, 2B2T, I remember that, yeah, and rejoined. Just in time to lose his spawn base to random rushers that, I swear to God, the rushers were a plague of locusts. They really were. So many places were lost. So many places. And yeah, everybody felt it. Everybody had something that they lost to the rushers. And so Alpha and I, we just sort of hit it off. And he knew me as the Space Falcon guy. And I was like, yeah, that's me. Oh, by the way, I'm planning to make another one. And he's like, really, you are? And I'm like, yeah. One in? Just some random dude. And I was like, fuck it. You want to build Space Valk 3 together? And he's like, do I ever? And so we just sort of start talking. We start all going, the older community. We all start migrating to Discord around this time. I really couldn't tell you what any one factor in that migration was. We just all said, fuck Skype, we're done with you. Discord was the new hotness. So we all migrated to Discord, and Alpha and I exchanged Discords, and we've been best pals ever since. And the drain was compromised by this point. We all knew it. And Alpha was like, hey, Jack, I know I wasn't invited, but can I see the drain? And I'm like, all right, sure, whatever. Have at it. And so he flies out to where the drain is, and he's just blown away by it, because he never really saw a base like that in person. A multiple player, somewhat well organized, really intricate base. He just never saw something like that. And I was like, yeah, it's really fucking cool, isn't it? Yeah, we're gonna make something this cool. And he's like, oh my God, really? I don't think he could believe me at the time. And I was like, yeah, but we need resources. What can we do to get resources? And so he starts trying to broker deals to get blocks of quartz. And I'm like, yeah, that's nice, but nobody's going to have the double chests upon double chests of quartz that I need, like that I had at Space Valk 2. I had like 25 double chests of quartz. And mind you, that was a lot to have. No shulker boxes, those didn't exist yet. I think we knew they existed or were about to, but that was 1.11. We were still stuck on 1.10. So we weren't really, you know... I want to say a lot of the development snapshots were starting up or something. We kind of knew what to expect, or were beginning to, from 1.11. The Totems of Undying, I don't think Rocket Flight was an idea yet, because that came after 1.11. That was like 1.11.1 or 2 or something. So Rocket Flight was not necessarily a thing yet, but, you know, we were getting there. We were really looking forward to shulker boxes and Totems of Undying. The minecart dupe in 1.7 was patched. It had like 3 or 4 iterations, but they never lasted long enough to be of use. We were never able to really, me and Alpha Computer, were never able to really get lots of goodies this way to build a base with. No 24 double chests, of course. We weren't going to get that way. But we would get it some way. And so, September marched into October. But one major event, before we get into September, October, one major event did still happen. Rusher himself. Jared wanted to show off the lands to Rusher himself. And he did so on August 30th, 2016. And I got wind of this. And I was like, oh hell no. You're not going to get to show off my base and parade its dead corpse around for, you know, views on Rusher's YouTube. No. Get off my lawn. And I swear to God, like, history does not just repeat itself, it echoes. And in the strangest ways. Because out of fucking nowhere, the bed God mode exploit comes back. And I'm like, what? If you've seen any of the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons, you're probably familiar with the Hanna-Barbera double take. The we all collectively did that. Because bed God mode was just absurdly powerful. And that meant the bed chains were all viable again. Now, despite the griefing of the lands, the bed chains were still there. They were just useless because you know, bed God mode was patched, so who gave a fuck? Well, because they were never cleaned up, they were suddenly viable. And so Jared gets Rusher on an alt, takes him and Wild X, which was one of Rusher's friends, nobody terribly special, gets them, takes them out there, and is making a video. And as far as I know, that video is still up on his channel. And is like, oh my god, this base is so cool. Or whatever he was fucking saying. It didn't matter. And I was like, guys, the fuck are you doing here? Get off my lawn. And I crystalled them. Initially, I was after Jared. I was not after Rusher because I didn't know that Rusher was even there. He was just some rando on an alt. Frickin', of all people, met me at the mouth of the bed chain and was like, hey, Jared's coming up. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I don't think frickin' liked the idea of Jared showing the camping Rusher around, but what could he do? And so it became this death tussle. This war. Or this struggle, sorry. It wasn't a war, it was a struggle. And I was like, get off my lawn! And he was like, you know, this is all the shit that I griefed several months ago. Look at my handiwork. I'll show you you know, the Sky Temple of Autism and other things. And we just kind of did this dance around each other, missing each other just barely. Until finally at the main house area, the main hub, we clashed. And I juke and they jive. And one Ender Crystal later, bless you, Sun Wukong, because Sun Wukong had this lag machine. And I mean, he was determined to fire this lag machine off explicitly when Rusher was online. And this lag machine made it impossible to tell what people were going to do, because players would literally teleport 5-10 blocks ahead of you. And so you could never really tell what was going to happen. And I'd like to think that's why I was able to crystal. Jared was my target, but it ended up getting Rusher too. It was a 2-for-1. And they, just like swatting a fly, they were both gone. Just bam, gone. And I was so happy. And I was like, hell yes. I got Jared. I got my revenge. But Wild X was still there, and he also had crystals. And so Wild X ran around trying to crystal me. He got a few minor fringe explosions off on me, but I couldn't really quite shake him. And what was worse is Elytra were totally disabled by this time. So nobody had the ability to fly or go anywhere, and I was not able to do Bed God mode quick enough to get away. And the lag made it impossible to eat God apples. I was cornered. All I could do was pillar up with some obsidian to try and sort of block him off and maybe buy some time. Maybe. Just maybe. And he pillars up in the blink of an eye, of course, you know, lag. And I'm like, oh shit. And there's water beneath me, right at the edge. Water from one of the areas that Jared griefed. And I jumped down into it, and I'm at like a heart. This fall damage would have killed me. But because Jared griefed my base, and had a water trail that he made because of his grief, I land in that water trail. And I just barely escape Wild X. And he crystals himself. And it's like, oh my god, thank you. Piss off, all of you. Get off my fucking lawn. And the Camping Rusher is completely defeated. Completely. Jared is only mostly thwarted because he still got to show off the lands. But he got to pay the price for it, and I got my revenge for him griefing the lands, rather. And it just kind of worked. And later on, the Camping Rusher would completely give up on 2v2t because the lag. People were dedicated. Sun Wukong and his lag machine, they just fired it off every time. Lag machine indeed, go burr. And that was the end of the 2v2t Camping Rusher series. And so in the wake of that, I decided, you know what? We don't have the drain anymore. I don't have this cool base. Alpha and I run off and we try to make a base. We really do. But the idea of the base was it was an outpost. It wasn't really a full-fledged base like what you would, you know, build cool shit at. It was just a way to get stuff. Because we needed stuff. That was predominantly our big issue. We just didn't have stuff. So what do? Well, I was ready. Maybe not fully 100% mentally prepared, but I was ready to tussle with the idea of making a mining expedition and making a base dedicated to just mining. It was an outpost in newer nether chunks where we could find and mine nether quartz because I wanted lots of nether quartz. That was the only way you were going to get it. I didn't know of anybody who duped tons of stuff, specifically quartz. And even if I did, I probably wouldn't get as much as I had at Space Valk 2. So I was forced to think of the one way you could do it. and that was mining. Now, looking back, the millions of blocks that have gone into this build. Oh god, that's going to start hurting my frames, all these items. Oh, that's going to be a nightmare. Oh well. I shall deal. But, yeah. This base, there's no way in hell anyone could ever mine all the nether quartz necessary to be able to make this place. It just wasn't going to happen. Just no way. But Alpha and I were determined to start, at the very least. And we maybe made it a week before we all flaked out and were like, oh, I'm too lazy to go mining. And I'm like, yeah, I feel you. I'm too lazy to mine as well. And so I said, fuck it. I'm going back to the Sea Spire. So that's what I did. And for another few months, I lived out at the Sea Spire, alone. And I was like, ugh, what do I do? What do we do? Where do we go from here? You know, we're not making a whole lot of progress mining. We could have, but I guarantee you we would have tapped out every single block of nether quartz ore in that entire area. It was not a small area, but we would not have gotten 100,000 blocks of quartz out of it. We wouldn't have. And again, the millions of blocks of quartz that have gone into this build so far, yeah, no, that just wasn't happening. But at the time, all I'd had was a few, drawings of some concept art. So I really didn't have, I had magnanimous plans, but I wasn't sure how big, I didn't get that the scope of the build was going to be what it was going to be. And I kept thinking, what could I do to make this happen? Because I wasn't ready to give up on the idea. Even today, I'm obviously not ready to give up on the idea. And if the dupe in July were dark clouds and, raindrops and sprinkles, I forget when, it was sometime in November. It was before 11/11, even though the dupe has the name 11/11 in the name. That's just when it went public. A lot of smaller groups, including me, Fit, and a few others, had the dupe. Oh, and I think the Fourth Reich had the dupe well before November the 11th. But regardless, that's what it came to be known as, is the 11/11 dupe. It was sometime in the early morning of... maybe it was 5 or 6 days before, 11/11. About a week before, I want to say. I'm online, playing at the Sea Spire, and Alpha messages me, Jack, you'll never guess what I found. We have a dupe. And I'm like, really? You have a dupe? Okay, well, what do we do? And we get the details, you drop your items from your inventory en masse, and on the same tick, you get kicked from the server, and it will duplicate your shit. And this is seemingly too good to be true, because I'm like, oh, there's no way it's that simple. This dupe, I swear to God, this dupe existed probably since the beginning of multiplayer, and none of us knew it. It really is quite something. It's a lot like the chunk dupe. I guarantee you the chunk dupe was doable. Well, maybe not doable, but certainly theoretically possible. Well before we were ending up using it and abusing it years later. It's really something to imagine how many items and exploits like that were all viable, or at least theoretically possible, years before they would end up seeing the light of day. But regardless, the 11/11 dupe, or as I call it, the drop dupe, because that characterizes it a little better, the drop dupe did indeed fire off at this time, and let me tell you, this dupe was like a deluge. It was just an absolute hurricane. More items and groups and other things started getting circulated at this point than I think at any point since the 1.5 dupe. The 1.5 dupe, we saw that really light the server on fire. The drop dupe, the 1111 dupe, that thing was insane. Of all the dupes thus far, I'd say drop dupe was in the top 5. Probably number 3. And at the time, it was number 1. The only reason it is now number 3 is because we would have 2 far more powerful dupes in the next year or 2 that would easily power creep the drop dupe. Simply by the sheer amount of items you could generate in such a short time. Like nothing touches at this point the drop dupe. It was just absurd. The minecart dupe was pretty good. I got a good rhythm on the minecart dupe in 1.5 to where I could produce a double chest of items inside like a minute. Because you were duplicating a single chest of items at a time, and that was pretty damn good. But you could duplicate a single chest in a second? Because that's about how long it took to get kicked, drop your shit, and then join back, because we all had veteran queue. So joining back was lightning quick. It all worked. It worked tremendously well. It just... Yeah, no shulkers. This is pre-shulker, but this is like literally a week or 2, maybe 3 weeks, as much as 3 weeks before shulkers. And I was like, you know, when shulkers come out, we're going to have a devil of a time getting all the shells we need, because at that time, shulker shells were finite. Because everybody's killed all the shulkers inside a 10 to 20k radius of end spawn. Because again, the rushers were a fucking plague of locusts. And so, knowing full well that the shulker has to somehow be around for this upcoming update would just spurn people on to kill more shulkers ahead of the update just to spite other people. Oh man, this is going to get really framey. Damn. I don't know if I want to do this. Yeah, no, I don't want to do this. This is as bad as when Bodekin had literally a ceiling of shulkers. No thank you. That was god-awful. Much better. Yeah, I'll just generate it using wool. I wanted a skybox, but that's absurd. Item frame skyboxes are just like, oof, no bueno. Oh well, I'll have to shrink it some, but it shouldn't work. Shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, so this is the beginning of one of the most powerful dupes in 2B2T history. And everyone has it. Inside a week, everyone has it. It was absurd. Bases were made because of this dupe, including Space Valk 3. We would never have gotten off the ground had it not been for the drop dupe. And yeah, I mean, it just... I'm so happy that it ended up happening, because there was no way we were getting the quartz needed in any other fashion. But at the same time, oh my god, it was something. It really was. You just had to be there. It was what a time to be alive that was. Now, I will say that immediately after the drop dupe became public, Nerds Inc. started capitalizing on the poor fools who had yet to learn a valuable lesson in 2B2T. And that is the lesson of never run player-made code that you cannot in some way verify. Because I swear to God, these dumb motherfuckers, they had not learned that lesson. But they would. Oh, they would. So there was a public build of Forge hacks, and this is also relevant to Space Valk 3. So this is kind of beginning to get into Space Valk 3 itself. What the? But I don't want to get too far ahead with Space Valk 3 quite yet, because there was still something more important that was about to happen. And that is everybody deciding that now's a good time to come back. People whom I had not seen since the death of Space Valk 2, hell, since the death of Space Valk 1, suddenly were all like, hey Jack, what's going on? Oh fuck, that looks ugly. And yeah, they all suddenly wanted to come back and play. They had old fag Q. We had items out the ass. We had a base in mind. You know, it was the perfect time for everybody to just start filtering back into general play. I'm glad they all came back, don't get me wrong. I'm not like mad at them or anything. It just kind of was like, well, you know, a bit fair weather soldiery, you know. Show up only when things are good and then leave when shit goes sour. But oh well, what can you do? Oh, but yeah, those were interesting times, certainly. I think the biggest thing about it was the fact that we could very easily amass more items in an hour than we'd literally possessed ever. This was such an absurd time. I would go, at the beginning of the year, to owning quite a deal of wealth, especially for the time, to literally being dirt poor twice, to being, I don't know, just absurdly rich again. It was so up and down, so very... It was a roller coaster, it really was. 2016, best way to describe it, just an absolute roller coaster. There was just nothing quite like it. It was horrifying to go on, but like in retrospect, it was kind of fun. And yeah, it was something. So Alpha and I get busy, and I mean we get busy. We have more free time and more items than we know what to do with. We dupe apples, we dupe armor, we dupe quartz. I think we had 100 double chests of regular double chests of quartz. And yeah, like it was insane. It really was. I just can't describe it any better way. It just blows my mind that you can go from such extremes. But it worked. You know, that was what we did. So I also duped at the Sea Spire. Well, actually, I want the seams to be regular sea lanterns. Fuck this. And yeah, it was a wonderful time to be on 2B2T. It really was. A magical time. Let's see now. We duped all the way until 1.11 hit. And we, you know, we initially thought that 1.11 would be relatively dupe-free. Because, you know, seemingly, everything was, I don't know, everything made some sense that this was a fluke. You know, this was a one-of. We weren't gonna get a crazy cool... Oh, wait, no, do this one. We were not gonna get another crazy cool dupe like this ever again. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You know, we took advantage of it best we could. What more could you ask for? Oh boy. Well, you see, the irony with that is that this would not be the last major dupe we would get to embrace. Not by a long shot. No, this was just the first of many very powerful dupes that would get to grace 2B2T. But before we could really get to use this dupe, or rather, before we could build a base with the stuff we were duping, when it was patched, a rumor began to circulate, and this was a nasty one. It was honestly quite silly in retrospect, but we had no choice but to believe it, because, you know, we just duped all these items. We just worked very hard for it. We didn't want to have all that hard work go up in smoke, so we had no choice but to believe. There was supposedly, this was not true, but supposedly there was an Ender Chest exploit that if a player opened an Ender Chest, you could pick up, if two players opened an Ender Chest simultaneously, that was it, you could pick up their cords. Now, obviously, a duping site like the base that we had made, we called it Quartz Eaters, because the goal was that we would be eating and mining quartz ore so much, you know, to make Space Valk 3, that we would need, you know, we would be sleeping, and breathing quartz. That was the idea. Fair enough. Whatever. Oh. Actually, it should probably be that one. And, seemingly, we'd succeeded. But we couldn't allow this idea of, oh my god, you know, we're going to lose our base because of a bullshit exploit. It wouldn't be the first time a bullshit exploit had been, you know, responsible for the loss of a base. So we were reasonably paranoid about this. There we go. And so, we hastily moved everything. Now, mind you, we didn't have shulker boxes quite yet, so we had to move all these items by hand. It was a nightmare. We just duped hundreds of chests of items, and we were scared we were going to get found, but we couldn't really be sure who was doing it, or who might have had it, or anything of that nature. We just kind of had to, you know, hope and pray. Hope and pray that we could move fast enough and that everything would be okay. Well, everything would indeed be okay, but not for the reasons you think. The simple thing was, the entire exploit was bunk. There was never any such, you know, coordinate exploit. Thankfully, we avoided this one. But maybe we might not be so lucky next time. Maybe. I'm gonna need to look it up, this thing that it's based off of, and like better model it, do some refining. Because this is a pretty close replica. I think we should go out a few more. But it's not a perfect rendition of the thing in question. I will tell you all in a second. Okay. Well, at any rate, that's going to do it for all this crap. Huh. Well, that map is useless. Yeah, moving stashes, hate it. I know. That's like 20 to 30% of 2B2T life is moving stashes. Okay. Now then. Oh shit, I got rid of my sea lantern. There we go. Our next order of business was to locate a new place for our stash, and so we called it Quartz Eaters 2. Because, you know, we're just all so gosh darn gifted at naming things. Okay. And Quartz Eaters 2 is pretty well kind of the last hurrah. We would go on to found a Quartz Eaters 3, but it never quite had the same oomph. 2 managed to last the longest. I forget who rated it ultimately. I don't think it's ever been... Like, it was not publicly stated, but it was found and eventually griefed, so it didn't matter. But we did keep a lot of really good shit there in the time that we had it. And the donkey dupe, the major donkey dupe that would follow in 2017, that was done predominantly at Quartz Eaters 2. And let me tell you, oh man. The donkey dupe was another really powerful one. But I do have to finish one last thing with 2016, and that was the advent of 1.11. And yet another dupe. This one was more private, though. It was the Shulker box dupe. Shulker box dupe never really saw the level of prominence that the drop dupe had. I want to say 1 or 2 groups were aware of it, but predominantly it was used mostly by me and my group and Kino Rana. Kino Rana and Kino Rana Goods started around this time. Kino Rana had a friend named Mason, or Nuka. And Mason, he'll factor in a little bit later, but he was an old friend of Kino's, and they were basically finding these exploits together. And Kino would sell the items on 2B2T for money. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Like, Mason and Kino suddenly showed up at the beginning of 1.11 out of nowhere, selling shulker boxes full of shells, full of totems, full of all this shit, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck? These items are literally brand new. How on earth? How do you have all this junk? Kino, of course, would not immediately tell me. I didn't expect him to, but like, I kind of hoped there wouldn't be a dupe of some kind for 1.11, but unfortunately there was, so, you know, it's whatever. And it ended up making things just a tad bit complicated. The reason I'd hoped that there wouldn't be a dupe is simply because items no longer had any value after 1.10's drop dupe. And I kind of hoped, maybe some of these items will be worth getting, but for the most part, they'll be a hot commodity, or, people will want to trade or something. Well, people would eventually want to start trading, but not quite for the reasons you might think. The biggest thing about this was that it meant people would almost always have tons of pretty much every material now. No item was safe anymore. Go up. Oh yeah, the stacked armor. Yeah, we'll get to the stacked armor. So at the end of 2016, I guess this will be like the last major thing. So we've got the Shulker box dupe that Kino and Mason are doing, and then out to the side, right before we start going to pick the location for Space Valk 3, Offtopia messages me and goes, "Hey Jack, we've got this really cool stacked armor. You were at the drain. Do you want some?" And I'm like, hell yeah, I want this. And so I fly out to get the stacked armor from Offtopia. And I keep the stacked armor to myself initially, but I also immediately tell Kino that items like this exist. And Kino's like, "You gotta give me that stacked armor, man." And I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe eventually. And yeah, this is kind of where stacked armor comes in. But we'll get to stacked armor, as it doesn't really make an appearance until 2017. But, it's whatever. Yeah, I want to say that was the last... Oh, yes, that's right. The last major interesting thing, the sort of stars aligning type of thing, was that, as I said, I flew out to go meet Offtopia to get stacked armor. Well, that was the thing. That was the last sort of stars align kind of interesting thing. Out of nowhere, for no reason, Housemaster just decides Elytra can come back. Why not? Re-enable them. And it was mind-boggling because none of the fly exploits had been patched. They hadn't even been touched. And now, more people than ever knew about them. So why then would you make an item that could cause so much trouble? Why would you then re-enable it? But obviously, we didn't look a gift horse in the mouth. We just said, fuck it. Okay, now's the best time. Now or never. And so we got into the end, and we flew out to some random ass coords, and I started looking for one of those end portal gateways. One of these things. I started looking for one of these because I knew that that would be... where is it? In here. I knew that this would be an amazing thing to build a base around. And that, yeah, it was. This is something I wanted at the centerpiece of the base. This is the heart and soul of the base. This is how we would go from point A to point B. This is how we could get back to spawn to trade. All of that. Obviously, we'd go into the overworld if we wanted. You do all sorts of shit. It was crazy. It was great. God, I missed that. I knew that trade would be important because maps really began to blow up around this time. The map economy, the map art economy just really took off. And so, to spite everybody for the map art economy, the leader of the Fourth Reich around this time, also little Timmy Nookie Pants, little Timmy Dookie in his pants, he decided it would be funny to grief maps forever. And so he filled up the map cap for the first time. First dumbass to do it. And it was obnoxious, you know. It made maps a bit of a premium, but it didn't kill the map industry. If anything, it kind of made map arts more valuable. Because now, you couldn't just walk off to somewhere and make your own map art. You kind of had to already have a place staked out. Ooh. Yeah, right there. And people decided, yeah, I'm going to make my own map art. Even I wanted to make a map art for a while there. God, map arts just make you want to gouge your eyes out. I don't see how people do that. But whatever, you know, people do it. And it's at this time I'm starting to really get into collecting all these crazy individual map art. And yeah, that was the map art renaissance. Oh wait, no, it would be right here. Yeah, perfect. Let me make sure this looks good. All right, perfect. And yeah, we flew out, chose the random coordinates, and we settled there. Those coordinates are only 1 kilometer away from this location. This is obviously where, you know, right here. Come on. There we go. This is where Space Valk 3 would ultimately be founded. But where we initially settled was only about 1 kilometer that way. And for a good, I don't know, this brings us to about the end of 2016. For a good, about almost a month, we got to settle down and just build out here. Kind of. And I built a little mock-up of the area. And I said, hey guys, this is where we are settling. Come on out. And the next thing I know, somebody does something really stupid that at the time I was mad. But in retrospect, it ended up being like this amazing act, or this amazing series of coincidences, that this amazing serendipity. Like, I don't know how to put it. It ended up saving Space Valk 3. But not in the way you might think. Now, exactly what happened, I don't know that I'll tell right away. Because it's a long story, and it takes us through many years left to go. Okay. But it essentially, that's everybody who came from the South Sea 1 video. This is basically that video, but like, I guess told from my perspective. I guess, instead of from Sal's. Because Sal, like, had a tough time organizing everything. Like, we gave him so much information. I don't really blame him for being overwhelmed and getting some things accidentally wrong. So just, you know, that was a thing. Just don't worry about it. Oh well, you know, shit happens. But yeah, that's all of 2016 pretty much. I can't really think of anything else that happened in 2016 that's worth noting. So yeah, that's all story time for today. I will take questions y'all have. A couple of 2016 I haven't found since. Forgot how swoop. Okay, well I'm glad you remembered my streams are cool, I guess. Whatever. Thank you though. Usually make map art with baritone. Yeah, baritone didn't exist back then. That's the thing. Schematica, I think, had the printer function, but I was making a stair-step map, and printer and stair-step do not play nice. It was okay, but it was a pain in the ass. It really was. Map arts were tough. I respect people who can make those. Map art is something else. Especially these incredibly large 4x4, 5x5, those types, where you're just going hog wild. And the most infuriating part is the fact that these map arts get destroyed or overwritten at the drop of a hat. So it's like, God. And I know it's a lot like a base. You know, bases get destroyed and overwritten and whatever at the drop of a hat. But I don't know. It just feels different to me. Had to learn while making Mario. Oh, that's right, you made the Mario smoking. Stoned Mario or whatever it was. I've got that one. Stone Cold Killer. Used full blocks of grinder wool. Didn't you do carpets? Where is it? Mario's Day Off, I believe is what it was called. Yeah. Yeah, I got that one, man. I think I have every single map art you have. There we go. What a happy coincidence. Now, does anyone know where this one was or why? Like, I can read this in Japanese. It's just Ai Marin. And when I googled Ai Marin, this is like an album cover or something, but I don't know what this is to or who Den is. Den might be the artist. I don't know. But does anyone know who made this on 2B2T? Change up the music later. I'm ending the stream soon. Don't worry. Ooh, interesting to hear my version of the story. Thoughts on Voco. Funny enough, I joined Voco once upon a time. In late 2015. And I tried to inside them. They seemed to go, like, nowhere. And I said, fuck it. And next thing I know, they're showing up at my base almost a year later. And they're a problem. And then Voco just kind of become shit poster meme lords. And I'll admit, they had their entertaining moments. But them imploding, that doesn't surprise me. They were dumbasses. They were never really serious enough, I guess, is the right way to put it. So yeah, that was just unfortunate. But that's how it is. The 4x4 made a return, okay. What makes me keep going building without lack of motivation? Ooh. Honestly, like, This thing is my magnum opus. I want to see it finished because I want to see it finished. I don't really have any other thing. Other than that, I like making cool shit. Tips for staying motivated. Force yourself to do it. Like, there's no miracle cure that I can give you. You're just gonna have to want to make it happen. That's all I can tell you. If you want it hard enough, you'll figure out how to make it work. If not, I can't help you. So yeah, that's gonna do it for today. Oh, that's one block different. Ah, well. Okay, so last few questions here. Mainly Colt Snib being paranoid. He's an idiot. He literally did what Chris Layton did, using his real fucking name as his IGN, or part of his name. Colton Snyder. Like, how much more obvious could he have made it? Like, it's just so stupid. Like, him being paranoid may probably be justified, but he was an idiot in the first place. So, I don't know. How big is the file size for this? It's approaching a gig. I don't know the exact size right off the top of my head. I'm gonna have to make a backup and I'll see. Think of what it would look like when it's finished and how cool it would be. I know. Well, thank you again, Gorgon. Thanks for the story time and the build. You're very welcome. I will happily continue to tell stories as long as I can think of stories to tell, I suppose. The only annoying part is I'm going to run out of stories eventually, so... Do I remember a player named Dr. Frankfurt? Yeah, I do. He was, I want to say he was in the Spawn Masons. Yeah, that sounds familiar. I don't really know, though. But yeah, the Dr. Frankfurt does sound familiar, but I don't know it. I don't have his contacts. Where should you look? Ask former Spawn Masons. That's all I can really tell you. There was a Japanese kid who made a massive map art and then died of something like a week later. Yeah, I do remember hearing about that. I just remember hearing about it. I don't really have an opinion on it. I couldn't tell you if half this shit is true. All I can do is say stuff that I've personally come into contact with. Things outside that, who knows? Oh, hey, thanks, Fast Vincent. I haven't seen you in forever. Looking forward to... Or wait, no, you've already released that new video, haven't you? I haven't seen it yet. But, yeah. Thank you for doing you, man. You're a cool dude. I like you fast. I like to be fast. Fast, Vincent. Isaac leaving was the final nail in the coffin. Who is Isaac? I don't know. Where the other 50 of you at? I know, right? Where the fuck is Oxymoron? Yeah, he also took a powder, didn't he? People do that. They get bored. They get tired. They want to just recede into the background, you know? That's just how it is sometimes. Oh, but yeah. That's life. Colt's right hand well was. Huh? What? I'm missing some context on that one, whatever. And the reason for deleting your old videos, like enslaving penguin. Oh, yeah. So actually, since Vincent himself is here, this does relate a little bit to him. So, of course, as you all probably noticed, he got demonetized. And that was pretty bad. And I realized that, you know, doing shit like that, enslaving people, you know, having fun on 2B2T, could and would eventually be misconstrued one day. And it would come out of the blue. It would be totally unavoidable. And it would just be an absolute nightmare. And I figure avoid that. To avoid it means to get rid of those videos. So I had to delete all those old videos. Don't worry, I had them downloaded. They're not gone forever. But at the same time, I'm not putting them up on this channel anymore. As for what I'll do with them, I don't know. Someday, maybe I will put them back. Maybe I'll make a second channel at some point. Put them there. So I just figured it'd be a good idea to avoid giving people who might want to hate on me someday. Just avoid giving those people ammo. Because, yeah, there are a lot of people like that out there. It's a very unfortunate thing, but I just figured it's a smart idea to not have shit like that be something someone can hold against me or try to report me for. Because you know there are retards out there who would do that. Or people who just try to stir up drama, cause problems. So I just figured nip it in the bud before it could become a problem. Isaac made pretty much all of the bots and domains for Voco. When he left, he took it with him. Oh. So that explains why all the Voco bots kind of evaporated. Oh well. You live by the bot, you die by the bot. That's how it is. Playing 2BT as a hate crime? Yeah, maybe one day. I could totally see it being considered that. That's how those dumb fucks think anyway, so. The no fun police. Chairman Xi Jinping and his thought police will no doubt one day invade YouTube. Mm-hmm. People can be slimy. Yep, breathing is a hate crime. Someday, thinking will also be a hate crime. So don't worry. Now then, one final little portion. So that's 47, so that's 46 divided in half is 23. Right here. Bingo. Oh. So for those of you wondering what on earth it is that I made whilst doing my crazy ramblings, what this even is or what's going on here, this is an idea I've had for a while now, but wasn't really sure how to bring to life. And then I kind of realized I wanted to make it happen on the Disc City. So this is essentially a virtual reality cube, and inside, this is a miniature replica of Thwomp's Fortress from Super Mario 64. So how many of you kind of thought that this looked like that? Or in some way. Am I left-handed in real life? No, I'm not. existence will be a hate crime someday. Yes, I'm sure it will be. So yeah, this is what I've been doing, basically. I wanted to make it all flush with sea lanterns and then line it with item frames, but drawing all those entities absolutely bumfizzles Minecraft's frame rate, because Minecraft is just such a wonderfully optimized game. So I use the new deep slate tile as a way to do that. Now, I'm not 100% happy with this because some of the bits and bobs are not what they should be. I was going purely off memory as I made this, but I like to think it kind of turned out okay. You know, in parts, it's okay. It's somewhat how it was. Oh, I forgot the islands. That's right, there are the floating islands here, but I'll get to all that. So yeah, it does look a bit like it, yeah. Going off entirely from memory, I mean, that's not terrible. You thought about it too, and I'm very glad you made it. Okay, well, thank you, Stonecook Killer. I thought it did look close to the very to start. Yeah, very surprised. Yeah, well, good. Was the idea to make a futuristic space city? Of course, of course. Like, I want this sort of cramped city atmosphere where there's like stuff on every corner, and it's this crazy sort of unpredictable, like, you never know what you're going to find around the next bend. Like right here, there's enough room probably for a small building of some kind. I don't know what I'll put here. But like just wacky shit, you know? Just like, oh my god, I'm living in a real city. Like right here, the city block feel is just like perfect right here. Like you come out, you're flanked by this building, you see these giant buildings off in the distance, you're standing by a somewhat smaller building, but you're like dwarfed by everything. That's the feeling that I want. Like you just come out of a door and you're just dwarfed. This whole place will just suck you in. That's the stuff. This is the idea. I do need to put something here. This is a lot of empty space. And that's the thing. I abhor large empty spaces that have no purpose. Which is predominantly why none of these buildings will just be empty shells. Like, I'm going to do something with a lot of these. I just got to figure out what. In many cases. It's like in here. I could have left in here just totally empty. Like the outside. Whoops. The outside looks fine. It's unique enough that it can kind of stand on its own. But because it has an internal portion, because this is an office building and it looks like an office building and there's stuff here, it doesn't feel soulless. Like there's so many places that I've seen, so many mega builds that I've had the benefit of looking at over the years that are just empty and soulless and shouldn't be. And it's a crime that they are. I don't want things to just stay empty. I want it to look nice. I want it to be the sort of thing that draws your eye, that makes you go, oh, holy shit. I could play the slots here. Oh my god, that's so cool. That's ingenious. I could play blackjack or craps or pool. I mean, you don't see that stuff all that often. And it just, you know, it gives the whole place a feeling of atmosphere. It's not just an empty or a solid tower. You know, it serves a function. Wall-E spraying the fire extinguisher out into space. Nah, I don't really know that I want to do stuff like that, because that seems more like a dynamic mural and less like a city. I don't know, that's not me. It's not a terrible idea. I do like it. It just, I don't feel like it would fit here, in my opinion. You have a habit of making big empty cubes, I know. That's how it is. Gave you the motivation to make a new base. Well, good. I'm happy for you, COVID Chan. Hope your your crusade in spreading COVID continues to, I don't know, something. I hear that vaccine has really kind of thrown a crimp in your plans. Terribly sorry. But hey, that's just a theory. A homosexual theory. Take care, everybody. Y'all have a good one. Thank you all those who donated. Thank you for coming out. Happy to do more story time in the future. And yeah, that's it, man. Have a good one.